What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Black Belt Business Podcast. I'm your host, Elliot Marshall, and it is my goal with each episode of this podcast to share the stories, strategies, tactics, tools, and resources that will help you establish or grow your martial arts school. The Black Belt Business Podcast is brought to you by Easton.Online. You can find all of our digital courses, martial arts curriculums, and resources designed to help you enhance your business at Easton.Online. So without further ado, let's jump into the episode. What up, everyone? We're back for another episode, Easton.Online Black Belt Business Podcast. Mike and Ian here, back with the big dogs. Hi, guys. How are you?
Doing well, man. Thanks for having us. Good to see all of you again.
Yeah.
I see you all the time, but I didn't know what to say.
We were just talking. Mike's clean shaven. I'm losing the chin strap, everyone. I think I just found out that everyone in the company is happy about the loss of the chin strap.
I actually haven't heard that. I just like talking shit.
Mike is happy.
Mike's happy about the loss of the chin strap. My kids like it better.
I'm just projecting my happiness to everybody else.
Awesome. I could care less if the whole company didn't like my chin strap, so it's all good. Anyway, guys, let's do a little check-in. I always like to start with a little check-in just to remind everyone, in case this is their first time listening to this podcast, that you have to remember, as important as all of the particulars are in our schools and our businesses, you have to remember that it's always people first, and you can make no progress with your employees, with yourself, with your students when the people you're dealing with are in a space where they're not ready to learn or listen or talk or discuss. So we always check in all of our meetings. So let's check in first. Ian, how you doing, man?
Doing all right. I'm doing well. Heading towards Thanksgiving. Looking forward to it. This is my favorite time of year. So yeah, overall, I'm doing well.
Awesome. Cool. Mike, how about you?
Are we being honest or just like...
Yeah, be honest. Whatever you want. Yeah, whatever you want.
Face value. I'm well, man. I relate the holidays a lot. And Elliot, I love you for who you are, regardless of your facial hair.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, okay. I think it's important I say that. And man, I love the holidays. My family's coming. My sister and her husband and her 3 kids are coming to visit, which is exciting and my other sister is coming to visit because her brother-in-law lives down the street from me. So all my family will be here except my step-siblings, which is kind of sad, but that's pretty rare for us. So that'll be chaos and a pain. But otherwise, the company's doing really well. We're on the search for another GM, which is kind of exciting because it shows how our leadership development has worked and who's available. And when it's hard to find a new GM, I think that's a good thing because it shows that we're not growing too fast or too slow. It's like, okay, we're kind of where we need to be, and we need to figure these things out. Like if we had 10 GMs that were excellent waiting in the wings, we're like, man, we're screwing up because we're not giving them the opportunity they need. So it makes me think that like we're opportunities like right where it needs to be because we have 2 main contenders, and like that's perfect, for where we're at. So I'm kind of excited that I think that proves some good things that I've had to learn about over the years, especially in our industry. And there was a couple of things I wanted to point out or talk about. What was it? Oh, and I don't know if anybody gives a shit, but I'm going to say it anyway. I have been reading. I like poetry, by the way, and I go back and forth between what I read. But in the morning, especially during the week, I spend a lot of time reading like more complex business books in the morning. And it gets old, especially if there's a long book. And what I've been doing afterwards, because it's like, I read and then I journal and meditate. But after I put down the complex business book, I've been picking up something a little bit more artsy, I guess. And I've been going through some different poets. And man, it's been really cool. Like my whole life, I was an English major and I was not able to understand like poetry. It didn't make sense to me, even though I took classes on it. I was like, I don't fucking get this. And I'm noticing 20 years later, now that I've read quite a bit and I have more understandings of like the language and references, the poems are like really clicking with me. And it's like, whoa, there's so much depth in these 10 lines and I can actually explore how this relates to the world and life. And I also think life experience makes a big part of it. And I've just been really enjoying that part. And I think it's, kind of exciting.
Cool. Hell yeah. I'll go. I'm gonna lead in off of your reading poetry thing. I started reading fiction. Mike gave Ian and I've never read fiction since like the Hardy Boys when my mom forced me. So I can't. I like had this like PTSD aversion to it because I hated it. So Mike gave Ian and I a book, the Terminalist series. It's amazing. I can't. It's almost better than watching. It's better than watching it on TV a little bit because like when they describe things, like I don't know the way I'm seeing this book is. I mean, it's a brutal book, right? Like murder and killing and fuck. But like when you watch it on TV, when like of somebody like getting stabbed, you just watch the stabbing and you're like, oh, that person got stabbed. Okay, that was crazy, you know. But when you hear the words of the tomahawk cutting through the flesh of the, and you're like, God damn, this is brutal, right? It's super entertaining. And like when they explain his emotion afterwards, of like, you know, when his, you know, of, I don't want to give the book away, when like something bad happens to him, you know, and I'm like, man, you like touch in with him way better than I touch in with him, the character, when I'm watching it. So that's been really great. I've really been enjoying the fiction. Other than that, I love, my favorite holiday is Thanksgiving. So I am excited. I leave for Maui Friday. So my family is already there. Oh God, they had a 3-hour delay on the front end of their flight yesterday, on the front end of a 7-hour flight.
So you're like Renee and the kids?
Renee and the kids are there already. Yeah. And my parents don't come for them. My parents will come for Christmas. Yeah, so they were 10 hours on a plane yesterday. 3 of them just sitting there doing nothing. They're
sitting on the plane already?
They were sitting on the plane and the intercom system didn't work. And then after an hour and 50 minutes, she said, an hour, almost 2 hours, they're like, we can't fix it. So they deboard the plane. Oh, and hold on. And then halfway through the deboarding of the plane, they got it to work. And so, but the law says that if you start the deboarding process, you have to finish the deboarding process with everyone and then reboard everyone.
Wow.
Yeah. So
sitting on a plane is the worst.
It's the worst, but they can't complain too much because they're in Maui right now. So I love that. I got a new grill in Maui, the one that I have here. I sold one that I had out there because I had to justify buying it. So like I sold one and then I bought a new one and I'm really excited to cook Thanksgiving dinner on it. So always a little struggle for me with basketball because we're like, it's the opposite of Easton. Like we do Easton really, really well, you know, and basically what that means is we handle problems really, really well, which is kind of going to be the topic of this podcast. And we handle topics because we don't communicate well in basketball, like absolute dog shit. Like, I mean, and they just, you know, so I, for me, I have this one, I'm just talking to personal when I say I have this one really great business that I'm involved with in Easton, right? Where we've been doing it for so long. And then I have this new baby of a business that we just don't do well. And like the conflict of it, like when I see us not do it well, I'm like, it can just drive me bananas. Like it can just give me some like interpersonal turmoil. So, all good. But anyway, there's our check-in.
By the way, Jack Carr is the one that wrote it. He was a Navy SEAL, but he's also he's obsessed with reading. So like as you get more into his books, which is why I really like him. Also Jocko Willing, because he was an English literature major. They're obsessed with reading, like philosophy, every piece of great literature from classics through poetry. Like I enjoy that piece of person that can like get in touch with like that dark side and feelings through great writing that has this like deep canon of work that they've read through, and I think it shows in their writing, but not that they're the best writers, obviously, but I like how much they appreciate all forms of writing and like high more high levels of literature and poetry. I think that's important to kind of like circle back to my point, like why I find it really inspiring and to hear what they talk about and what they use for references. Like it's very, plus obviously I love fiction. That's why I majored in English, because it makes you feel.
Yeah.
Like you get real feelings out of it and you're like, whoa, I didn't even know that was there. Sorry.
And no, it's great. And I just want to talk about this for a second. Like this whole thing that we just did. Like, man, we're best friends, right? Like the three of us, like we've been really good friends for, I don't know, 20 years now, you know? So, and I know the best friend thing is so weird. I hate saying it because it's like, we're BFFs, you know, but we're really good friends. We're more like brothers than we are friends. And we still check in a lot, right? Like we don't always have to check in with each other like we just did. But like, that was really interesting for me to hear Mike talk about poetry. And I'm like, oh, you know, like, and I didn't know that. Right. So, but that will help Mike and I work together better, you know? So like these check-ins, and it sounds like kind of silly and all this shit sometimes, like they're actually really important because you like get to know where the other person's at. Like you're like, oh, that's interesting. And you can relate to them a little more. And because you got to remember, we're in the people business. Everyone, we say this all the time in the podcast. We are not in the martial arts business. Martial art is the product that we teach. It's the product that we sell. It's the vehicle, but we're in the people business. And when you know the people better, everything gets better. Even us, even the three of us. And we have been doing this together for so fucking long. So like, I just want everyone to understand that like this 10 minutes, even though we didn't touch on martial arts, we touched on how each other is doing. And this can't be more important.
Yeah, sorry if you're a listener and you don't care, but take the lesson at least.
Take the lesson. Yeah, take the lesson, because that's the lesson. You know, we were just talking about somebody else in the company where it's like they only come in with problems, right? They only come in with a problem. They never ask how you're doing. And that pisses us off, right? It pisses us off. And you're like, motherfucker, can you just ask how I'm doing for a second? And it's like, all right, it matters. It matters. If you can bring all the problems you want, if you ask how I'm doing for a second, right? And when you don't ever ask and all you do is come with problems, it pisses us off. We're like, we bring problems to each other all the time, right? All the time. We've been dealing with this one issue for 3 weeks now. We've been talking about it, you know? So, and we do it better. Go ahead, Ian. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm going to cough on something.
Yeah.
I was going to say, something that's been kind of interesting is, you know, my wife works for a pretty big company, like an online, like they're a huge company. They provide basically diabetes education, stuff like that online to clients all over the country. And it's interesting watching someone who doesn't get these meetings, who never is checked in on, right? It slowly boils and people begin to get very frustrated. So I think, you know, we're probably mainly talking to people who own their own school, right? And so the lesson I think that you're really sort of, you know, pointing out is that you might not, like, you have problems that you want solved because you run the company, right? But what if the people that you're leading don't feel like you care about them personally, right? They're ultimately going to get frustrated, right? So not only are the check-ins important, I think these meetings are, you know, the meetings that we introduced at Easton, it changed everything, because people started to have a voice, right? And that's what gets everybody collaborating. And if you don't have that, people feel like they don't have they don't have anywhere to go with the issues. They don't have anyone that there's no, there's no place for them to express not only themselves, right? But just to be heard, right? So I think this whole, the check-in, the way we do it, right? The issues, like all the meeting structure is really, really important to having a healthy company. And I think it's very, very, one thing you'll hear a lot is like, oh, don't have a meeting if it could have been an email. And I think a lot of companies take that way too literally and end up just doing, you know, they end up not having meetings, and they think that that's a good thing, but it's really just the path of least resistance. Now, what you need to do is have meetings, structure them properly, and lead them well, right? That's what's going to help your company. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about, and checking in together is a big part of it.
And checking in with your employees, checking in with your, like, you guys aren't even my employees anymore. Like, I don't even consider it that way at all, but like, we check in. Like, Mike, you sent me a Voxer the other day, and we ended up not even talking. You called me, and then you were like, hey, nothing important. I was just checking in to see how you were doing. Like, and then I called you back and you didn't fucking answer. It was the weekend. We're busy. Like, shit happens, but like, it actually means something, right? It actually means something. And we both know we were fine. We talked the day before, right? You know, so Anyway, go ahead, Ian.
No, it's like instead of having no meetings, have good meetings,
Have good
right?
meetings. Yeah.
Have
You
good
know,
meetings, structured meetings. Don't make them go longer than they need to.
sure.
Try to keep them 8 or less. There's so many, ideally 6 or less. We screw this up too. And then like there's so many things like I love the word team, like for me the most, because on a team you can have captains, you can have star players, you can have coaches, but you say team, like there is a hierarchy and like implicit one, right? But like you say team, everybody matters, and they all, like football teams, I think really do a good job with, because all fucking 22 players have to do their part to have an excellent game, right? There are some that really matter, like having a high level QB is pretty important, but like I think that is beautiful, and the high level QB has to be really good at getting the team to work together, right? So like I always lean into the idea of team, and I feel like it gets rid of employee or like making people feel less than. I still say employee and staff and all that, but if I can remember to say team, like everybody feels included, and like with the best teams, like you gotta look at what they do.
Yeah, 100%. What the best teams do, and I know that was great what you just said. What the best teams do is they handle problems really fucking well, right?
Yeah.
Like that is what they do, and that's what like I wanted to talk about today with you guys is because let's just relate it to football. There's not a football team that steps on a field on a Saturday or a Sunday and has all good plays. You have these butchered plays. You have these massively big plays that happen against you sometimes, but you recover. You get the team back together. You make shit happen after that play, right? After that bad event. So you're always going to have, and we have them, right? Like everyone sometimes will think once, and I'll say, we hate this term, right? Figured it out, quote unquote. But yeah, we have figured a lot of things out in the martial arts industry, right? We run our schools really, really well. But there are massive amounts of problems that come up during the day, right? Or at a time that we have to handle. The example I wanted to give, and I don't think we've talked about this, is when I was in California with the Easton.Online group, right? And I called Mike, and we wanted to cold call a bunch of schools. We cold called a bunch of schools, and I asked if it was okay to cold call Easton as well, to see how he answered the phone and like that process.
Let's be clear. You cold called the clients of Easton.Online who were teaching, and you cold called Easton schools.
I'm sorry,
right?
I cold called
like,
who?
You also cold called some of the clients that were teaching how to do this, right? And they did way better than we did.
They crushed it. They massively crushed it.
Yeah.
We called a whole bunch of schools, right? We probably made 30 phone calls that day. Most schools were terrible. Most schools were very, very bad. But our clients actually did really well. That was stoked. Yeah, good. We did not. And there was a particular call at the school that I'm at the most with somebody that I know really well that was probably the worst. And I'm sitting there listening to this. And I like literally wanted to like stop the phone call and be like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? Like, are you serious? Are you serious? But that's not how we handle problems, right? I called Mike. We got on the phone with Ian. And then, Ian, you set up this system of how we were going to fix this. And that's what I want to talk about. Like, how did you think about the system, Ian? Because whatever. The problem is just the example, right?
Sure.
How did you think about the problem, Ian? How did you converse with Mike about the problem? Because you guys are the ones that implement and make shit happen. And then what was the system that we went on to actually fix this, which is a fucking big problem if you're not intaking people correctly?
Yeah. Well, so I think that I'll start when I got the call from Mike. I was pretty upset. I was frustrated. And I'll tell you what I didn't do. I didn't act impulsively and call all the GMs and get mad, right?
Well, Ian's in charge, not me.
Well,
or me.
Yeah. Well, it's like, so I think the first thing, right, is I found out what happened. I wanted to know what happened, why it happened. But the first thing I do is like I talk to you guys about it, so no decisions happen in a vacuum, right? Number one, I don't just like make a decision and then go to work. But I really try not to act impulsively, because I can really think through what happened. And I'll just say, because it happened at multiple of our schools, it's an endemic problem, right? Meaning that it's not just in one place. It becomes very hard to point a finger when it's happening everywhere, right? So the real, you look in the mirror, right? The problem was my own, right? I clearly, and I can, I don't want to sound masochistic. I think one of the things that as a business owner, like, you really start to realize is the forces of entropy that are always at play, pulling apart everything you build all the time, right? Like, that's all life is, really. It's just energy trying to scatter. You're born, right? And really from the get-go, your cells are breaking down, and then that's just what we're working with. So there was a time where we had the perfect phone call, right? But then, right, you train everyone, the phone calls are perfect, and you get to move on to the next thing. The problem there is you move on to the next thing, and then you move on to the next thing, and right, you move on to 8 more things, and everything's going great. And what do you forget about? The phone call. And all of a sudden, the phone call has broken down to to what it broke down to, which
So
is
you can go buy a gi online. You'll probably
right.
find one more cheaper than ours.
Yeah, right, exactly. Pretty much the worst thing you can imagine, right?
This person makes commission, good commission.
Good commission
Yeah.
off selling our Ds, not having the person buy them online. Yes.
But just to talk about why that happens, is because people naturally have the inclination. Most people, right, are non-confrontational, right? They want to help people. Like, they don't, but they want to do it in a way that's non-confrontational, and trying to get someone to buy something feels confrontational, right? And I think and that's not for everybody, but for a lot of people, right? So but the point is that
Hold
the
on,
phone
I want to
calls.
stop
Yeah.
what you just did there, because that was so good, Ian. I want everyone to hear that. Rather than us go down this rabbit hole of, like, you fucking moron employee, right? Which is the easiest rabbit hole to go down, right? Like, that is so easy for all of us. And forget about this employee, that's so easy to do. You were like, hold on, what's the next layer back off the onion of why someone would do this? Right? You went one more step rather than just that easy surface layer, you fucking moron step. That was really good.
Yeah, it's just non-confrontational, and everyone wants to be the person on the phone who helps, and that can lead you to make, decisions that aren't so great for Easton. But regardless, like, it just things, so yeah, your attention's everywhere, things break down, and then you have bad phone calls, right? So I was very upset. It was embarrassing. I was frustrated. I'm sure you were embarrassed. But it's also a really good lesson, and it actually, I think, led to something that's going to really change our company. But yeah, essentially, it's just you're constantly fighting entropy, right? And regardless of what, so I think the thing to know is, whatever it is you build, however well you think your team is trained on it, right? If you leave it alone for too long and come back to it, it's going to be a mess, right? So it's finding a way, it's continuity, it's finding a way to have systems in place that ensure continued training, right? So the thing you build stays built. I mean, look, if you build a building, right? Take the shiniest car you have and you let it sit for long enough, without ever driving it once, it'll break down, it'll rust, and it'll degrade. That is what we're talking about. So how do we prevent that from happening? Well, one of the things that I've been running into, so there's the problem, entropy. Let's diagnose it correctly. It's not that everybody's an idiot, right? Because including me, right? There's only so much. Like, look, I tend to do this. I beat myself up, but there's a certain point to where that's completely a waste of energy, and I'm really trying not to do that anymore. I'm really trying to, like, how long do I have to hate myself before I move on to a solution, right? And I don't see, a minute, 5 minutes, 10 days, a year, right? I'm trying to get that. I'm trying not to sit in the sour anymore. Just move forward to a solution. So now it's like, what's the problem? Entropy is the problem. It's happening at every school. How do we prevent it? right? Well, one of the big things that I've been struggling with in my new role, which is, you know, no longer really new. I've been in it for 2 years, but it's different than being a GM, right? What I do is I manage all the different locations via a general manager. So the general managers manage their locations, and I try to support the general managers, right? But I kind of have this overarching view of everything that's going on, or at least I'm supposed to. The problem is I often feel like a firefighter instead of a lifeguard, right? A lifeguard is a much better place to be, where you're walking around the pool, right? You've got your eyes on everything, right? You can, and it's not a firefighter as I'm running from one burning fire to the next, always feeling like I'm behind it a little bit, right? And something Mike said to me a long time ago, which is like, man, I wish, and it was in my 360 review, it was like, I wish you could see problems before they happen better, you know? And I totally understood that. And this phone call thing is just a great example of it, right? It is like, yeah, like it was kind of a fire, right? You just had a moment in front of a whole bunch of people who are trying to, you know, looking to us for guidance, and it was like kind of disastrous. Well, so what I wanted to figure out is how do we get a system in place that will have quality control on all of this all the time. And essentially, I know I've been kind of talking for a while here. What we finally landed on was a sort of a secret shopping service, right? Where every month, every other month, someone anonymously comes into our academy and they give us a full grade on everything that we're doing operationally. Phone calls, sales, cleanliness, everything up to how is the bathroom stocked with Q-tips and a hair dryer and mouthwash, right? Because all of these things are things that I'm trying to look at all the time. But so now we have this automated process of people coming in completely anonymously and giving us a grade. And what's beautiful about this is if I see that Centennial is struggling to keep a clean bathroom over and over and over again, I will know what I need to deal with in Centennial, right? If all of the schools are struggling to keep a clean bathroom, well, that's a more endemic problem that's more global, and I'll have to handle it differently. So it's basically giving me a way to keep tabs all the time on the continuity of our excellence. So that's how we solve that problem. But essentially, it's identify it, right? But do that with other people. Don't get impulsive. Being impulsive is how you make mistakes, right? Because if I had just gone to the people and gotten pissed, right? Well, man, that first of all, it's me lacking accountability, right? And they would have been right to be pissed at me. So anyway, that is, I don't know if that's
No, that was
what you were
great.
looking for.
I would love to chime in a little bit after him speaking, if that's okay.
I'm done.
You sure?
Yeah.
One thing I love about my relationship with Ian, and Elliot and I are just about there. As I made fun of his chin strap, I feel like I can say anything to Ian because I'm always a ball buster, and he just always laughs it off. Once in a while he doesn't, I think, but maybe it breaks him down.
No, the best was lunch the other day with the dogs. That was I don't remember what it was that he
Let's
got
not
so
talk
mad
about it
at.
right now.
Yeah, that was so good when he snapped. It was towards me, but anyway, go ahead.
Oh yeah, he got mad.
Yeah, he got mad
totally.
just for a second. Boom. And then,
Ian, but when somebody never gets mad, it is very scary when they do. Yeah. Like I'm like when he gets mad, like fuck, I'm really just like, oh god. But it's happened maybe once in my life that I can remember.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So when thinking about this, right, I was trying to think about what I had my own thoughts on this, and I was trying to break it down into like some basic words to help how I look at it. So we were talking about team, right, already. But like the first thing is, as Ian said, like don't be impulsive. I think the other one I like to think of is like remain objective. Because for me, I'm like a kettle. I'm like, what the fuck? And 10 seconds will pass. I'm like, all right, now let's solve this problem. I do need to punch something. You know, that's still part of me. I need to work. I'm still working through that, but it used to take hours. Now it takes seconds for me to break through that like impulsiveness. So I think people are impulsive, but remember to be impulsive with a pillow or your confidant, not the person that's the issue. I think that helps. So be objective. But then like going through the problem solving process, it's like, okay, discover whatever the problem is. Like you hear it. Okay, cool. Or you see it.
I want to cut you off for a sec, Mike, because I think that was really good. Don't forget your thought. You got to know who you are a little bit. Like, you know that you're that impulsive. You are impulsive. Like your first initial is right. But you know yourself so well that you know how you've learned how to get that out without it actually touching the problem. Because when you get it out in the problem, it makes the problem way worse, right? Because now you got to do this person-to-person repair. Like if you call somebody a motherfucking piece of shit, right? Like
That's the nicest thing I would call. So that's like me saying a compliment, but yeah.
right.
I know.
Yeah. But you know, me too.
How
So
much more
like
kind
now you have to do this human repair that the problem just gets hidden almost. So you got to know yourself and how you react. So I think that was an amazing point. Like you go
Well, you
punch the
want
pillow.
to go deep on it. Like you can go into attachment theory, right? Like there's like people that have, there's like this, I'm listening to this podcast, Alan Shore, and it goes into like attachment theory, how it's all dictated in the first 24 months. But I think about like, there's the kids that need to have somebody to go to repair. They can't do it on their own. And there's that person that can repair on their own. Like Ian can repair on his own. Me, not so much, but there is an ability, like the beautiful thing about therapy is that you can break out of those attachment theories once you figure out what it is, you know, it's pretty cool podcast. But anyway, going back to this.
it. Yeah.
Trying to, so for me, again, knowing myself, I have to get rid of the impulsiveness. It's rough as a general manager. It was really hard for me, you know, like cause I would be impulsive in the moment. I'd smash chairs in front of people, you know, and that wouldn't be good. Now being removed in this role, I'm much better at this role because I can be removed, get my frustration out, like away from people, and then we can solve the problem objectively for the most part. I still, you know, need to work on it. So
you'll smash a chair every once in a while.
Discover whatever it is, right? And then after you discover what the issue is, this is where Ian usually comes in. He dissects it. Like my job usually is to discover it, you know, and Ian just dissects it so well because I can't play chess like he can. I can't solve puzzles like he can. I see things. I'm like hyper vigilant in this area of like, oh, I see all this crap. I don't know how to fix a lot of things. Where Ian has this ability to immediately get into the objective standpoint. Like he has this detachment he can use and quickly solve puzzles because he doesn't hold emotion to it. And I think that's a superpower. I know Jocko talks, I brought him up twice now, but he always talks about like disconnect, you know, detach. And that helps because you can dissect it from a non-emotional place. So discover, then you dissect. Once you dissect, there's two things you have to look at. Is it a people problem or is it a process problem? People or process, you know? And at that point, you have to discover which it is. If it's a person problem, you go down one track of thinking. It's like, okay, I need to coach this person to do better or coach them to be better at this role or improve their ability at this role, right? And if that doesn't work, you dismiss them. You know what I mean? Now, it could always be you that's the problem, but you're the boss, so your boss has to figure that out for you or you're going to step away. So let's go with that line of thought. This is for your direct reports. If it's a process problem, then you have to figure out how to solve it. So in this case, like this always happens, right? Like we have instances where it's a people problem, like we've tried to work with them and all this shit. And usually if it's a people problem, they either don't share your values and then it's like spitting in the wind trying to work with them because they don't care what you think. But if they share your values, that's great. But if they don't have the GWC, like get it, want capacity for it, then it's hard to get them to do it, right? And the GWC usually, if they share values and have the GWC, you can usually move them to a different seat or don't have the GWC. So like a really great example is Jordan Shipman was a good GM, but he is a fucking fantastic program director because he loves solving problems. He loves working on big picture things, but nobody loves working with people, right? All the time, all their problems. We found a role for Jordan because he got the job at the GM. He had the capacity for it, but he didn't really want it deep down. We found a job he wanted and he shares our values and it is watching him excel. So if it's a people problem, you got to dissect values and then GWC. If they don't have values, see the fuck out later. If they have like parts of GWC, right, then maybe there's a place you can move them, right? If they have GWC, you got to see what you can coach. If they get it and want it, that's awesome. But if they don't have capacity for it, then you probably got to move them somewhere else. And that's the toughest thing to deal with. If they don't want it, that's great because they're going to be willing to move. If they get it, you got to coach them how to get it. Now, that's how I go through the people side, you know? And then on the process side, exactly what Ian just said. He's like, okay, this is multiple facilities we went to. We have the systems, we have the process, we have the training. What am I doing wrong to help keep these people accountable? Ian went out and discovered a way to get that. He's done this a bunch. He's done this with our reviews for our Listen 360 reviews. He's done this with these processes. He's come up with training courses. Ian solves these processes by going out and finding a system or creating his own that will work through it. And that's where traction came from. That's where all this stuff we're using. Like what we were struggling with meetings and we couldn't figure out why. We read some books like, oh, have structured meetings and follow an itinerary. Boom. Now we have good meetings. So like the meetings they were kind of a people problem, but mostly it was a process problem because once the process was in place, the people that don't like being stuck in a box will get the fuck out of the way, you know? So like, yeah, that's my
man. What this all really sounds like to me is, and we go back to this a lot with our, when we talk on, when I make these reels on Easton.Online and we talk about what it is we do, is we get people that are really good at a lot of different things, right? Like Ian's really good at figuring out, like, Mike, that was a great big picture, discover, dismiss, GWC, right? That was a great like CEO role type answer of problems. And that's your job, because this is where you shine. And Ian's role is this operator role. And so operate the problem, like dissect the problem, So, but you might not shine and you said it, you don't shine in Ian's role of like getting in there and really being like, what's the process that I'm going to use to fix the problem? But
I think
Ian
he does. So I just want to say, I think Mike does. So what I would say about Mike is I think Mike is actually very good at systems and solving problems. And like, I always go to Mike when I need help solving. Again, always. If I'm ever about to solve a problem, I always talk to him first. I think where I become useful is it's like Mike is more, I don't want to say he's more emotional, right? But I can talk to people like he's
he is.
Mike. Yeah,
no, he is more emotional.
No, he is. But I think that's where I get useful. So it's like, it's not like, no, just to say like, Mike is very good at handling and solving systems problems, and I think he's probably even better than I am at it, to be frank. But where I think I'm useful is I can go in and I can deal with the people, because a lot of times you meet resistance, you meet like people don't agree with you, and I think that that's where I can like be a little bit more patient and like calm and so I think I can implement those things, because one thing I will say about this job is it requires a fair amount of patience.
Your job. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It requires patience. It requires, no, because like at some point, and this is one of the reason, like Mike's the CEO, is because Mike is the guy who's like, okay, this is what we need to be doing. And like, I think one of the things that, look, I work really well with Mike, and I've said this a lot, is like, I trust him implicitly. Like, I am totally cool. Like, if Mike's like, hey, we're doing this now, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to just see, then I'm just going to see how to do it, or Mike, sometimes Mike will even tell me how to do it. Right. And then I go implement it, and I think that sort of is, and these are two very different personalities. So one of the things I was like thinking about when I was like, yeah, don't be impulsive. It's like that also comes with its downsides, right? I am much more, I'll sit there and deliberate, and at some point Mike's in the driver's seat of the bus, and he's like, yo, get the fuck in or we're leaving. You know what I mean? And that's an important piece.
That was like my life.
Yeah, but you need that.
Look, so like, Amal, for example, is a very super founder type person, and he's not impulsive at all, right? He won't make a decision to save his fucking life. So which has its place too, which has its place too. Yeah. You need both. You need both. I think that was the overarching point that I was trying to make, even though maybe I was wrong about Mike and the systems thing, is that you need black belts in all these different types of roles and areas. Like you as the one person aren't solving this by yourself. Right? Like your sales question, your marketing system, your this, like there's people that can help you. There's places that can help you. And even inside our company, like we the thing that we do well is that we have people that do things really well. And some of them, like, does Sarah train?
No.
But she's been working for us and does a great job.
She's 20 years old. She's 30 now.
Yeah, for a decade. She's, and she's found a really important role in our company. So get away from this, like, I'm a black belt, and I talk about this all the time. I'm a black belt. I know the answers. I know what's going on in my jiu-jitsu academy. I know what's going on in my Muay Thai school. Nobody else does. There's no way that this person over here that is not a black belt could possibly help me with anything. That's a big part of how we solve problems as well.
If anybody thinks they have a black belt in jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai, they know other things. Like, you can apply the lessons, but it doesn't mean you know how to do it. You can apply the lesson you learn in jiu-jitsu to, like, in life and all that shit, but like, doesn't mean you're fucking good at sales.
But that's the day and age we live in, Mike. You gotta, like, the day and age we live in is you become an expert at one thing, and that expertise, the fact that you're an expert transfers to everything.
Only if you're an idiot.
Well, sorry.
In my opinion.
the tractor beam
Okay, we got to be
of
careful.
politics is going to pull us into
Yeah,
that.
I know. Let's not do that. I wanted to say something else here that I think is important, because whenever I talk to people that are running a school, and I've talked to a few, or like have a small business, they're always like, well, I can't afford to have that extra role. And I'm like, man, you don't have to have the extra role. You have to learn how to do everything, right? As a business owner. It doesn't mean you have to
100%.
excel at it, but you got to do it all. And as you get better at it, you're going to be better at hiring for that job. And then you hire somebody that's better at it than you, right? And you do that slowly. You prioritize. I can't stop fucking quoting Jocko. And you prioritize, I guess the SEALs. You prioritize like what job has to be done first. Like right now at Easton, we need a finance person. But I say I because I'm the one that would work with them, because I have these projects I need done, and I can't quite jump off the fucking diving board into the pool, even though I have all the projects in the water that I want to jump into, because I have like one more answer, like this extra step I need. And we can't afford it right now. We just can't afford a finance person. So I'm trying to do my own work and figure this. I've been doing this for years, by the way. It's like 3 years of trying to figure this out. And it's slow. And I know I'm not the person for it, but I do realize I have to continue having meetings with other finance people, continue to read the books, continue to do courses on it, and just get a little bit until I get to the point where I can actually make a decision and then make enough money to hire that person. Now, back to what I was saying. The point is, the key here, I think, is knowing your weaknesses, like Elliot said, and then leaning into your confidant, like leaning into that person that fills your gaps. Like Ian does that for me in many regards. Like I'll go to Elliot if I want some hard feedback on something. Like I need you to just be fucking blunt with me without feelings. They just say it, and he'll say it. And Ian, like, man, we work really well in solving problems. And I think the part that makes this possible is not that we are very different in how we see the world the same, but we approach it, I think, slightly differently. More. I'll just leave it at that. We approach it that differently. And I want to approach it like Ian. Like my morning routine, every morning in my fucking journal, I wrote, be more patient. At every goddamn morning, I write that down, and it's the hardest thing for me. But with all of this, the implicit trust matters. Like I'm realizing, unless I have the implicit trust of the person, I can't say anything I want. Like I can't just say, like with Ian, I could say fucking anything, right? Like, and he'll assume the good intent to have implicit trust. So he's not gonna like, oh, Mike didn't mean it in a bad way. He trusts me to like think. So I can just be this fucking pouring diarrhea out, and he realizes that I have good intent because he knows me so well, because we've known each other for 20 years and lived together, that he can help me solve the problem, and he'll never take offense to it. And I'm the same way with him. Like Elliot, and I think we're close there with Elliot. We haven't had quite the long-term relationship, but we're like right there. Like I consider Elliot a brother. I consider him that way. But again, we haven't spent. There's like
you and I have to work at it more.
Yeah.
Like when we want to vomit, we've learned how to work through it, right? And we'll vomit, right? But we talk about it first. Like, hey, can I do this right now? And if the answer is no, so like we know that we just can't come with vomit or
it's not implied yet. It's not implicit yet.
It's not implicit and I think that's probably, Mike, because you and I are both more emotional and impulsive, right? Yeah. So that like the initial, where we know, like we can say whatever the fuck we want to Ian, because one, he's not going to take it personally at all probably. And two, his response is going to be really patient and thought out as well. Where you and I, we know this about each other. It's like man, like the initial might be really shitty back. And then when the first thing is shitty and then the response is shitty, then it can keep going and it can get not good. It can spiral. So I wouldn't say it's like this implicit trust thing. I think it's more of like we know what we have to do with each other to make sure we can get there first. Like
my wife's the same way. I implicitly trust her, but I have to approach it differently.
Yes, I trust you. I don't think you have any bad intention towards me, towards Easton, towards anything.
No.
So that's what I would call implicit trust.
Yeah, you're right. I think what you said was much clearer, because I think about that with my wife. Like I can't. I have to be a little bit different how I approach it.
Yeah, you can't just say, "God damn it, mother."
Ian, you're the key. You're the key here. You're our perfect. You make us better.
I'm like Wilson, and what's that with Tom Hanks, Castaway?
No, Wilson can't solve problems.
That's a good point.
Through it.
Fucking volleyball with a face paint.
Yeah, I think Wilson did help Tom. Wilson gave no response, and I think that's what got Tom Hanks back to the fucking motherlands. So
Wilson.
Anyway, guys, I thought that was really good. I thought understanding, like I thought how we broke that down was solid. Of from bigger picture view, from specific view, breaking it down to like, is it a people problem? Is it a systems problem? So, because like there's a couple guarantees when you have a business, and problems is one of them, and they don't go away. Like they don't go away. And the more people you start to include, right, the more members you start to get, the more academies you start to have, the more problems you have, regardless of how well your systems and how good your systems are. Because once you add more people, and we love people, we're not saying we don't love people, we need them, we all do, the relationships multiply, and so do the problems. So how do you deal with them is super, super important.
Can you guys hear that?
Yeah, but it's okay. It's over.
Okay. One thing I was going to say too is, I think, out of all of this, like the problem solving, I think it's really leaning into people, like Mike kind of said, having a confidant is really leaning into people. And if you don't have people to lean into, like, let's say you're just running your own company, maybe that's what Easton.Online is for, like having a group of other people that you can solve problems with. A line that I really like, and it's something someone said to me a long time ago, is sometimes like your own thinking, you can't just continue to trust your own thinking, because your own thinking keeps landing you in the same place. So if you keep having the same problem, and you might, like, look, there are times where I think I have a brilliant solution to something, and then I go talk to one of you guys, and I hear, and it's happened several times in the past 2 weeks, where I think I have a great idea. I am certain of it. I've thought this thing from every angle. And then I talk to you or Mike, and I'm like, oh, no. And then I'm blindsided by something I didn't consider, that's really changes the calculus of my decision. And it's like, it's very important, like, to have other people that you can bounce ideas off of and that you trust. And I think that's where something like Easton.Online becomes very, very useful, right? Because, I think that being, especially if you're alone, you're the business owner and it's just you, it's lonely at the top, right? Like, you don't know, you can really lead yourself.
And then the problem with that is you start relying on students, right?
Right.
That and you start getting close with students, and you shouldn't be getting close with them, and you start blurring the lines when that happens, and and then they become a problem, and then the whole thing implodes.
Yeah. So it's just really, don't make decisions in a vacuum. Because
one of the great things about Easton.Online, guys, is we have this group, right, where it's on Voxer. It's an app where you communicate on, and I don't know, there were some problems that somebody was having over the weekend, and I sometimes will take the weekend off, and it was solved between them. Like they solved it. They solved it for themselves, right? Like no Easton.Online interference, let's say. And then when I came back and listened to it, I was like, oh, that was really good. Fuck yeah, good job. So that's part of the benefit of of what it is we do when you work with us. So
I think you guys pointed out something here that I kind of stated earlier. Like, it's important to be present. Maybe this was we talked about that before.
Whatever. Yeah.
I was talking about it's important to be a present manager. Like, kind of think about a parent. Like, if you're a good parent, if you're a shitty parent, get the fuck out. But if you're a good parent, it's good to be around your kids. It helps them. It helps guide them. And same thing with like managing your academy. The more you're around, often the better the academy will do. But just like anything, again, I haven't read these books in forever. The dichotomy of leadership. There is a dichotomy you have to pay attention to. Of if you're around too much, it doesn't give them the freedom or autonomy. Your team the freedom or autonomy to make mistakes, to fail and improve. So like, you have to find the balance. You have to be present, aware, and guide, but you can't micromanage and not give them the autonomy to flourish and fail.
It's a tough one. So
everything's a balance. All of life is like that.
Yep.
Guys, go read some books. Go have good talks. Go have good friends. Have good sex. That's important too. Don't forget, I'm going to lead right into an offer now. We have two offers that we always have, guys. So if you have an academy, if you're about to start an academy, when I say about to start academy, lease signed, please, not like you're going to start an academy in like the future. And you are ready to go. And you are under 100 members. About to start or under 100 members at your academy, we have what we call our launch / like relaunch program, where we get you to 100 members inside 3 months. That is the exact way that we open new schools. I think the lowest we opened with, and it was like mid-pandemic, was like 77 or right after the pandemic.
Before we open the doors.
Before we open the doors. Yeah, this is before the doors even open, so we have that program if you are under 100 members. And then we have our Academy Accelerator program, which is everything that we do at Easton, all of our curriculums, this Voxer group that I'm talking about, our systems, our instructor training, our sales, everything we do at Easton is behind this wall of the Academy Accelerator program. So if you are interested in either one of them, we have ads out. You can go on our website and get a freebie, and then you'll get to us, or you can just literally DM me. If you DM Easton.Online, you will find your way to one of those programs. So be ready for it. Be ready, everyone, for a little bit of a downtime here coming for your academy. Don't forget that. But this is a great time to start, for example, the Academy Accelerator program, because you're going to have a slow rest of the year. It's just a guarantee, right? You're going to have it's just what happens. November, December, and everyone thinks January is great. January is not that great. Half of January sucks, right? Because people are just coming back from the holiday. So you have about 2 months here, and you could actually put in some really good work on learning new material for your school. So it's a monthly membership. It is not expensive. It's literally $199 a month, the cost of a student. So jump on that if you need some help really getting ready for 2025. So that's it, guys. Ian, appreciate you and love you. Mike, appreciate you and love you.
Love you too, man.
Thank you. Love you too, brother.
Thanks, guys. All right, guys.
Thank you.
I thought I wasn't sure if you wanted to say something or not. So I was like, we all were like looking at the camera. That's it, guys. Everyone, have a great day. Have a great Thanksgiving. This should come out before Thanksgiving. I hope everyone really enjoys it. I'll let you know how my turkey turns out on this. I haven't cooked the turkey yet on this grill, so we'll see what happens.
Will you spatchcock it?
No, I'm going to I bought a fucking rotisserie, Mike.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to try to rotisserie this bitch. Yeah. See how it goes. So, all right, guys. That's it. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.